I'm Kate from Presley. There's a lot that goes into writing a good email pitch, from finding the right angle of your story for the person that you're sending it to actually putting together the entire pitch, to sending it, to cry whilst you wait for a response. But we've covered a lot of that stuff in our other articles. So what I want to go through today is just a few practical tips that will help you get good deliverability on your pitches. So the first thing is actually before you start writing your pitch, it is your sender address. So your sender address is basically just the email that you use to send your pitches from. Mine is at Presley.com because I represent Presley. If you were sending a campaign on behalf of Spotify, yours would maybe be at Spotify.com. The idea is that you use the domain of whatever organization you want to represent. And that's just because domains have value. So for example, if someone who is associated with a particular domain, their email belongs to that domain, they send a lot of mass campaigns that aren't very well targeted, they're seen as spam, then that's going to have a knock-on effect to every domain email associated with that domain. So what you want to do is to use your own domain name and build up a reputation over time of sending relevant targeted email. If you're using your own email client for this, then it's pretty straightforward. It probably does it by default. If you're using an email pitching tool like Presley, then you can set that up quite easily. You just add your sender address, and then whoever owns your domain needs to spend about 3 minutes putting in a couple of records to basically tell the domain that it's okay for another software to use it. Okay, next is attachments. This is a big thing because if you're emailing someone, especially if it's someone you haven't emailed before, and you include several gigabytes worth of attachments to your email, that's going to look like spam. It's going to look a bit dodgy. So that means that if you're planning to include something like a press release with your pitch, it's better to literally just copy paste it into the body of the email. Or if you're using Presley, you can, for example, insert any of the stories from your newsroom directly into your press release just by selecting it. And you can choose whether you display the introduction or the full story, if you show some branding around it, for example, the footer of your site with the boilerplate and some links. It just puts it all there. Another benefit of doing it this way is we've spoken to some journalists before. In fact, if you go to our PR Roundtable series, episode 5, I think it was, you can see us interview a couple of journalists about how they approach being pitched. And one of them, who was a feature writer, mentioned something really interesting, which is that it can be months or even like a year down the line before she has a story that would be relevant for a pitch that you sent her. And somewhere in her mind, she'll be like, okay, I remember getting a pitch on this topic. I should get in touch with that person, see if there's some overlap there, something we could use. But I don't remember their name. I don't remember where they emailed from. So of course, it's going to go to her email and use a search function to stick in a few keywords and try to find your pitch, which is where it's super helpful if you included the copy of your press release in your pitch. That's going to surface your email right there and she'll be able to get in touch and then you can work together. Like sometimes it's quite a long cycle. The other thing I will say is, again, to do with attachments, media assets. If you want to send immediately some photographs, some video, whatever, adding it as an attachment can again get you flagged for spam. You can, if you want, you can even you can embed images inside your email, which is a bit better. But again, if you do this too much, it's going to look a little bit spammy. So what I would recommend is setting up a press kit that lives online or a newsroom with a media gallery there, and just including a link to it inside your pitch email. And that also gives you added benefits, like you can then update the assets within the press kit and media gallery that you link to without having to resend the link. So it's always current. So even if a year down the line the journalist finds it, they'll access it, they'll get the most current information. So that's all for my deliverability advice. Hopefully it'll help a little bit. Yeah, until next time. Bye.